What is good, everyone? I am back again. Want to talk about this topic here, which I think really, okay, I'll just come out and say it. The state of discourse in terms of fandoms and fan media and even, adapted media is just horrible. And a lot of people look at it and they're like, wow, how did we get to this point? Where is all this coming from? And really, I find that ironic for a reason I'll get to in a minute. But at the same time, there are three major contributors to the state of discourse in discussing these things. And that is something that I want to cover. Number three, honestly, is probably the mob mentality. Now, the mob mentality, what the heck with it, I'm actually going to say that for number two. Number three is actually probably blind acceptance. Blind acceptance is where you go into something, seeing that it's based on something you like, and just decide, I'm going to go see this. And that's okay. You can decide to see what you want, but it's when you see it and then you see all these warning signs, like they're deviating from this, they're doing that. The acting in this thing is actually kind of bad. The effects in this are kind of bad. The storyline in this seems like they're not even trying to follow what they're adapting, and they're just trying to be kind of dark and grim and serious, so on and so forth. These are all signs that whatever is being adapted from what you love probably is not going to reflect what you love anymore, and may not be of very good quality. And there are different reasons people do this. Number one, I'm a true fan, so I support everything that this puts out, even though that isn't really a true fan. That's a blind consumer, but I digress. But if you wanna support it because it's tied to your franchise, it's your prerogative. But the one that really gets to me are the people who look at all this stuff, see that yeah, it looks horrible. I know I'm probably not going to like this based on what I've seen, but I can't say that or judge this movie because I have not paid money to see it yet, so I am going to go pay money to see it, and then I can say that I've seen it and don't like it. At that point, Skippy, they really don't care if you liked it or not. They could have made the most terrible movie in the world, and you went and saw it and said, oh my god, this is the most terrible movie in the world. They won't care because they've got your ticket money. That's really all they care about. That's all these studios care about. The bottom line. This is why Michael Bay has turned butchered adaptations into an art form. Because he knows that if he makes a big enough spectacle, Michael Bay is basically a flashier Uwe Boll at times. He knows if he makes a big enough and flashy enough spectacle of special effects and budget, that you will go see it. I mean, he knows at this point that everyone's upset that these Transformers movies are very poor reflections of the Transformers. He doesn't care what you think. He's making money at the box office, and as much as you try to say that, you keep giving him money to go see it. It doesn't matter if you rip into it afterwards. You went and you saw it. And this was kind of birthed by reason number two, which we're going to get to in a second. But really, why would you pay to see something that you know you're probably not going to like, and then you act all surprised when it gets a sequel? How did this get a sequel? Everybody thought it was terrible, but you went and paid to see it. So you're not going to do that here, right? Because you know these movies are bad. Well, maybe they fixed this one. Maybe this one isn't as bad. Maybe all the problems in the first one won't be there. I don't know. I can't say. I haven't seen it. And the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats until we have a Transformers 5. a Ninja Turtles 2, an entire series of really, really lousy X-Men movies that the best of which are frankly only passable. But again, a lot of this became birthed by number 2, the mob mentality. Now, the mob mentality, this one's a real pain to deal with, because the mob mentality, which, by the way, was birthed by number 1, is basically people who are fans of something will circle around it and defend it. Now, this is true of pretty much every fandom ever, but these people will circle around and defend something that isn't even out yet. If only for the sake of defending something that isn't even out yet. And when I say circle around, I don't mean sit there and make any kind of logical appeals or argue facts or provide evidence that perhaps what you're concerned about or what you think might be good actually won't be good based on things that directors and actors have said. No. I mean, they circle around and defend in the form of, you're just a hater. You don't know what you're talking about. You wish you could make a movie this good. Shut up and be grateful we got one at all. I'd like to see you do better. Tell you what, when you make a movie that's as good as this, you can talk. When you make a movie that works on the big screen, you can tell. It's stuff like that. And it bugs me so much because it's just so stupid. It's like, I'm giving you facts, I'm backing up what I'm saying, and you're telling me I am stupid and a hater, and I just want to blindly hate this as you continue to blindly support it. But then, you also have the flip side of the mob mentality, which is where the mob decides, whether rationally or not, that they are going to hate something. Case in point, the Amazing Spider-Man films. When the dust settles, and it frankly has started settling, and a lot of people are finally starting to see it, the Amazing Spider-Man films, they are not bad films. And a lot of people are finally kind of at least admitting they weren't bad. Even if they weren't their favorites, they weren't bad. But at the same time, when they were out, there was a hate parade that was out to hate on literally every facet of every announcement and every tease that they released. Like, oh, this character could be played by this character. Oh my God, what are they doing? This is horrible. I mean, there are people right up to opening day that were actually repeating and parroting and believing rumors about that film that had been disproven during production. I mean, you could see that they're not true right there in the trailer, too. And yet they're arguing that, oh, you know, they're going to shove Hobgoblin and Black Cat in here, and oh, they're going to do this. And I've seen that with other franchises, too. A lot of people will just hate something, and it's not just in adapted media either. It's in games, it's in film, it's in comic, it's in books, where people just decide this is going to be absolute crap. They work themselves up into a frenzy and decide this is going to be crap. So much so that literally every announcement made, whether good or bad, is met with so much venom that you almost wonder why they even bothered to try anymore. And if you sit there and you try to argue that this is actually like the comics, especially with people who try to say that it's like you haven't even read the comic. Number one, I find it extremely funny because oftentimes what they'll say is from the comics is not actually from the comics, but from another form of adapted media. In Spider-Man's case, for example, they will often cite things from the 1990s Spider-Man cartoon, as if it's from the comics. Same with the X-Men cartoon. Same with Batman the Animated Series. It goes on like that, and it's just... And they're sitting there saying, you haven't read the comics. What they're saying is not from the comics. I don't get that. And that happens in a lot of stuff. And it's just this mob mentality, circle the wagons, start stomping your feet. I don't understand why we do this to ourselves. It's like there are people just don't want to have discourse anymore. They don't want to talk this out. They don't want to discuss and debate this. They just decided they are going to like or dislike it, and if you argue against them, you're a moron, and they're going to make sure you know you're a moron. But this leads us into number one. Where did all this start? Well, ironically, it stems from the one place that tries to feign outrage and indignation and mourning, and is actually the very thing that spawned this, and that is the media. Specifically, the media that is dedicated to these things. Dedicated media. And what I mean by that is, take a look. When you see some of these big YouTube channels or these big websites, saying some of these ridiculous things or making these arguments or cases for these terrible looking films, or arguing that this movie that looks, that might be good is horrible because of this and that, people don't research it themselves. They take it at their word and they start to parrot it. And there are times you will have entire articles on websites that are dedicated to bashing the haters or bashing the fanboys. And both the haters and the fanboys are portrayed as some pretty horrible stereotypes. See, if you're a hater, you're just some sort of basement-dwelling, glasses-wearing, overweight, greaseball, Forever World-style hair that looks like you done dipped it in the fryer at KFC, just streaming down your face, oil dripping, zits everywhere, pushing your glasses up as you laugh maniacally and post on the forums, this movie's gonna be bad. Well, you're just a hater. You need to get out of your mom's basement. And of course, if you're a fan of something, and they decide that it's horrible, you are that glasses-wearing nerd. You are Urkel. You are depicted as someone whose life revolves around doing nothing but reading comic books. Your girlfriend is actually an imaginary figure. You don't see sunlight. You're probably whiter than powder, etc., etc., etc. And you have no life. All you do is spend all day in forums arguing about comic books or video games or movies or what have you. And this is coming from media. And it doesn't help that the media will sit there and openly shill for these things or openly bash these things, but especially in the case of shilling for these things. I have seen some ridiculously over-the-top shilling, like when Iron Man 3 came out and everybody was upset over the whole Mandarin thing. Article after article after article, video after video, people calling anyone who was upset about that a basement-dwelling nerd who needed to realize that movies aren't going to be exactly like comics. Get a life, get a girlfriend, get a job, etc., and get out of their mom's basement. And oh my good lord, and when you look at that, you look at Michael Bay, everybody just hates it because it's a Michael Bay movie, but see, I heard Michael Bay was horrible, but then I saw this one Michael Bay movie, and it wasn't a terrible Michael Bay movie, I don't think, so therefore everything everyone ever said about Michael Bay must simply be blind hate and going along with the crowd. Articles have said this, videos have said this, and people will then start to agree with it. Oh no, I don't want to be seen as going along with the crowd. I better just agree with him so I look like I'm not. And then you wind up part of the mob who thinks themselves to be the counterculture. It's hilarious. And then you got Dorkly, that website. Oh my god, I really cannot stand that website anymore. The amount of stupid that I've seen their people write, the minimal lack of research put into anything. It's like you didn't bother to investigate anything at all when you wrote this article. Oh, good lord. But, I mean, then they wrote an article basically on why Dragon Ball Z is terrible, horrible, awful, and they had maybe one point that could potentially be argued, and the rest were quite literally born from either not paying attention in series or forgetting that Dragon Ball happened. But I digress. In this particular case, the Ninja Turtles film was coming out. The new one. The Michael Bay produced monstrosity. And Dorkly, because everyone was saying, this looks terrible, this looks horrible. Well, they couldn't really argue that it was going to be a good movie. And they knew they couldn't, but they had to shill for it. So they put out an article saying, hey, guess what? Literally everything else that has ever happened in the Ninja Turtles franchise has been terrible too. And they went on to attack the 2003 the 2003 series because some of the later seasons, fast forward was kind of so-so, and then Back to the Sewers was weird, but see, because Back to the Sewers happened, therefore, the entirety of the 2003 cartoon is terrible. The 1987 cartoon is terrible. The original comic book is horrible because of the Image Comics run. That is ignored even in the comics' own continuity. Oh my god, and it just went on and on and on, and it was just, wow. I mean, they even went after the original movies, talking about how they don't age well, they look terrible, the animatronics in those suits are awful, and it's like, excuse me? Oh, good lord. Those suits were phenomenal. They were honestly some of Jim Henson's best work. They looked alive. The eyes actually looked like eyes. They could perform a full range of facial expressions, and it really helped bring those characters to life. And apparently they're horrible now. But I mean, it was stuff like that, and the reason that the Image comic, here's the thing though, they don't clarify that, oh, hey, we're only talking about this part of the series, or, oh, hey, we're talking about how this happened here. They're talking about things that, frankly, didn't even happen in the Image run, let alone not specifying this as part of a run of the comics that got ignored even in some continuity, and they're saying things along the lines of Raphael, became the Shredder, and Donatello became a robot and everything, and it's like, that's not entirely true, and you're leaving some stuff out even of that. But, I mean, Raphael did not become the Shredder. Raphael entered the tournament to take the mantle of the Shredder because he thought that if he did so, he would successfully end the conflict between them and the Foot. So it's a bit more complicated than just he became the Shredder. It's stuff like this. They just kind of half-ass everything. And the reason that they do this sort of thing, even if they know that it's going to be bad and they can't really defend it, is because they want to kiss up. It's similar to the same way comic media oftentimes will not call out writers like Dan Slott for their BS, because they know they're quite sensitive and petty, and will not give them their exclusive reveals or interviews anymore if they don't kiss their butt. And it's the same with these YouTube channels and these, websites. Exclusive interviews, exclusive, set photos, exclusive reveals, exclusive this, interviews. Well, if we don't kiss their butt and promote their movies, we might not get these anymore. So we need to just, tread carefully. And, and they sit there and they write articles like this, and they call people fanboys, and they mock them for it. and then they wonder why everyone else does it and bemoan the loss of proper discourse in the community. I honestly have no words for how stupid that is. I really don't. At any rate, that's it for now, and I'm really not sure what we can do to fix any of this, except try to revive communities, I suppose. Create our own. Try to discuss things civilly. That's really all I can think to do right now. What do you guys think? Is there a way to fix this? Are we too far gone? Is it just going to have the bottom fall out before things get back to normal again? Let me know what you guys think. And as a side note, I decided why not. I'm going to be doing another Q&A video, so the link to the Ask box will be in the description. I am going to not be able to do this for very long, however, so I'm going to be taking these through the weekend. And probably answering them Monday night. It's a 3-day weekend, hurrah. But anyways, that is it for now, guys, and I will catch you later. See ya.